This is the effing business podcast. You ask the questions, we answer. So episode 25 of the
Big
podcast.
25, man.
Big 25.
We made it this far.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Quarter century.
Yeah. You're always talking about process. We're always talking about process.
Correct. So let's talk about the process.
Man, we're talking about process.
We talk about practice? All right. So,
It read off it the wrong way.
sorry. What's the answer, my friend?
Oh, what's the answer? So
so-
Kai had a question about process.
Yeah.
Kai's question is, do you use the same or similar processes through multiple businesses?
Tactically, no, because they're different businesses, right? So tactically, you're using different systems and stuff like that.
But
so
the
on.
exercise of building it?
But the thought process of how to create a system is very similar, right? Like step A, step B, step C, so on and so forth.
So let's take you through the process of how it worked for us. We were about 2 years into our adjusting business. We, in some ways, were an incredible success in the sense that we had a lot of business for two guys knocking on doors, literally knocking on people's doors, and only one of them getting into getting into the door. Okay? We had all this business, but we had absolutely no process. So we didn't know where the claim was holding. We didn't know who owed us money.
And he was stubborn.
A little bit. We had a business partner at the time, and he came in, and I think he knew there was problems. He didn't understand. He's a lot older than us. We were like 23, 22, 23, because I just got married. He's probably at the time in his 50s, maybe 60s even.
60s. Yeah.
So he comes in, and he's asking us some questions. He thinks we're two idiots before he started asking us questions. He wasn't wrong.
We were one idiot.
Okay. We told him how much revenue we are estimating based on the amount of business we have. And I think his eyes were like, what? These guys had that much like in the pipeline, so to speak. I don't think we were right at the time. I think we overestimated, not because we were lying to him, just because we didn't know. But he spent time with us and he explained to us, you have to outline every step of what transpires. But we didn't know we knew the steps peripherally. We didn't know each one. So every night after work, I think we did a cutoff time of like 7 o'clock, from 7 to about 11 every night.
Yeah, for about 6 months, we basically...
Well, it started over like 10 days. We took a whiteboard and we literally wrote down everything that we think needs to do, and we assigned a time frame to it. Okay, we had never done anything like this before. And then we debated and we argued and we said, no, this is too long. Oh, we missed a step. And we just went over, we refined it. Okay, we knew we weren't even going to get it right. We're going to just do the best we can. And that was like the first time we ever created a system or a process, right? And that's just on the whiteboard.
Right.
So we wrote it down, and then we went to find software to build software. Software is really important to every company. That's obvious, okay? And we implemented, and that was a whole nother journey. So we implemented that process into the software so that we can run it through the software. Now we understood how to do it. Okay.
But also, more importantly, in my mind, it sort of unlocked the idea of creating processes.
It's an exercise we hadn't done before.
Right? Like it unlocked the thought process of how do we get this done efficiently, but not only efficiently, but like in a way that makes the most sense. Right? Like for the employee, for the employer, for the most, how we're going to maximize our dollar here, and so on, right? So like, there's a lot of things that really unlocked in our head, and tell me if I'm wrong, that like it worked for this, right? And that's sort of like what unlocked it, and then creating that for everything else, right? And then software
that idea.
Software made that explode even more so, right? And so on. Like, wow, we can do so much more of a process with the software, and not only get down to a micro level, but like even more so.
As opposed to a training manual, the employee has to do this when it gets to that.
Right, and then trust it's going to happen, right? Like, you can trust, that's great, but you have to verify. And if the systems are verifying, then it's already going. And now you just have a working machine, well-oiled.
So now, over time, we improve the process. Things outside of what we do change that affect us. So we edit the process. We say, hey, why are we saying this takes this long? We think we can do it in less time. And over time, that raw process becomes a very refined process. And then we do it, and we do it even more. Then over time, further than that, as we grow, we say, okay, we're going to go into the next business, and we're going to take the final product that we've built and then modify it for this business. As take the deepest dive we have to modify it to make it work. And now we have these systems in place. And now we understand that, okay, we need employees to do this part of the process. We have to, one person can't do all this. We have to break this up into 3 different roles. So now, the system is going to do that for us, but we need to hire and train people to do each role. And then we kind of duplicate that while constantly learning, constantly getting better at the processes we already have in systems in place, and apply not the exact same process, but that concept To me, it's as simple as going to the gym. I remember the first time I went to the gym with Vince. Did you just see Joe's face? He went,
Sucked.
what? So Vince was terrified.
I hate gyms.
We went to a gym where it wasn't like an open gym. It was like a kind of a private gym. Is that what it's called? A private gym?
I guess so.
Okay.
It sucked.
And all he did all day was, I'm so nervous. I've never done this before. I've never gone to the gym. Clearly, he never gone to the gym. I'd never gone to the gym, right? But then you start to learn how to lift weights. You start to understand the form and make sure you're lifting the right amount and you're not swinging your arms wildly, all that kind of stuff.
Never went to the gym. Just a disclaimer, but I was still better than him. So.
At the snack bar, you become comfortable with it, and then it doesn't seem so challenging or daunting anymore. And that's kind of what we've done with systems and applied that through understanding what needs to get done. We were working on this today with something. It's an exercise that becomes easy to us. We have to go through it. You can't skip steps, right. But it doesn't seem. You don't ask yourself, how do I do this? You just get in a room. We still use the whiteboard. We talked about what we think needs to get done. We debated certain points, and then we're going to apply those ideas into the softwares that we use and go from there.
But really, the unlock for us was on being a business and not a hobbyist, almost, right? Getting back to the last talk, what was those systems, right? We were on the track to be a hobbyist, right? Like two guys being hobbyists. We talked about it one time, I think in our second or third year, like, we could probably make the same amount of money or more, just sort of splitting up and being single entities and doing this ourselves, like one on one. Like we could probably make more money, just like no rent, no nothing, work out of our houses, stuff like that.
Like that day, short term.
Short term, right?
Yeah.
And then systems unlock that in our head. Like if we have a system, this could be a business and an enterprise and no longer a hobbyist kind of thing. And most of our industry happens to be hobbyists, right? There's tons of guys that are making plenty of money, but they're sole proprietor, one guy, mom and pop shop kind of things. There's not many enterprises. We want to be an enterprise. So I think systems in thought process, but in practicality as well. Not just about how we actually get the job done, but also how we're going to think about something. How does this work in the process? How we're going to make this into a process? How we're going to get this done where we're making money at the highest return. The people who fail with processes, the guys who never change it, right? So the guys who say, this is our process, right? You see it a lot of times with like old time like plumbers, blue collar workers, roofers, plumbers, stuff like that. You create a process, right? This is how we do things, right? And you see it, they slowly decline in business because their process never changed from when they instituted it the first time, right? So
key to a successful process is the constant iteration.
Right, like don't be okay to be like, that was a great idea 2 years ago and we're starting over. Right, because the industry changed. This insurance, whatever we deal with insurance companies, this insurance company changed their methodology, so now we have to change our methodology to react to them, and so on. Because otherwise, we're losing. No one's losing, right? The insurance company's not going to lose, right? So we're the ones losing. So when you get stuck in your process, right? So that's one thing that won't change.
Change is the scariest thing to a business because it creates so much uncertainty and what's going to happen and so forth. But the idea to think that things will never change is failure from day one.
But also being
you don't have to anticipate.
But also being naive to change, right? Being scared of change is fair.
It's normal.
It's normal, right? But being naive to change, that things aren't changing, like everything will be okay.
And I say that out of experience. Like there was a lot of change in our industry when we first got in.
Terrifying.
And I thought we were going out of business because of it. I thought that those changes, those shifts would put companies like we were out of business. And I'm not saying that there won't ever be a change that won't really drastically affect our business, but we got through it, right? We worked through it, and now I don't think that way. Like, I've got to stay ahead of those changes, right? We have a lot of legislative changes in our business, so those are things you have to be smart about. You don't want to get a letter from the government body telling you, you haven't been compliant with the changes that were instituted a year ago, right? And we ran into that. We met people who would talk about something. We're thinking like, you can't do that anymore. There's a new law out, right? That used to happen. So everything will change. Losing sleep over it is pointless. As it starts to come over the horizon, you have to be prepared for it. You have to think through how that change is going to affect you and how to position yourself for the best outcome.
Human nature is not going to change, right? It's constantly changing, but the humans are going to be
that human nature affects how we do things.
Affects what's going on. Affect things. What's going to cause change is not going to change. The thought process that you would feel safer putting your daughter in a car, some random stranger that you got off of some phone app 5 years ago or 10 years ago, than a friend of hers at a party seems crazy. But now you see people telling their daughter after the party, just get an Uber and come home. Don't
drink and drive.
Yeah, that's human nature. Human nature is going to drive the change, and that's not going to change. I thought that was good. Episode 25, that was super. Thanks for all the answers, Aaron.